Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Christina, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about self-care and the importance of self-care for stay-at-home moms and what that looks like and how you can make time to get self-care. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at my blog post that I wrote on the topic for some notes. So let's just dive right in. And before we actually get started, again, my name is Christina. Basically, I post videos to uplift and encourage and motivate you as a stay-at-home mom, just to kind of get through your stay-at-home mom journey if you're in a bit of a tough season. So that's what I do here on this channel. I am also a Christian, so I will post faith content as well from time to time. So let's just talk about these things really quick. First, I just wanted to touch on why self-care is so important for anybody, but for stay-at-home moms in particular. If you do a keyword search on the term stay-at-home mom depression, the volume is over 2,000 searches a month. It's actually close to 3,000 searches. That's pretty high for mothers who stay home with their kids, who you would think are happy because they get to be home with their kids, are searching for ways to get through their depression related to being stay-at-home moms. And so I think that the number one reason that moms deal with, at least there's a variety of reasons, I'm sure, but I think the number one reasons that stay-at-home moms deal with depression is because a lack of self-care. It's pretty simple, a lack of taking care of yourself. Anybody who doesn't take care of themselves is going to have some issues. And I think as moms who stay home full time, we are constantly doing for everybody else, almost sometimes overcompensating to make up for the fact that we don't bring in money, and feeling as if we have to always put everybody else's needs and wants before our own, that we often not only not prioritize our self-care, but we just don't even do it at all. I mean, there's just times like you just don't even do it at all. I can think of examples like, you teach your kids to eat healthy. You make sure you give them a balanced diet. Make sure they get fruits and vegetables and healthy fats and carbs and all the different things, right? And you're teaching them these things. And while you're trying to make sure their plates are balanced, you grab a cookie just to kind of get through the day. While you're trying to make sure that they know what a healthy meal looks like and they know the difference between a healthy snack and a sugary snack that's not as good for you, your breakfast was a donut because you're just trying to focus on getting them together, and you grab a donut. Not only is that an issue clearly, but it's also not setting a good example for your kids, because you're telling them one thing, but you're showing them something different. You're telling them and teaching them the importance of taking care of themselves and, getting dressed and taking baths and just all the basic care things that you do. But then you're not taking a shower every single day, and you're not getting yourself dressed, and you're not combing your own hair. So not only is it not good for you, it's not setting a good example for your kids, because you're telling them one thing, but you're showing them something different. So that's why I think this topic is so important, because as stay-at-home moms, homemakers, whatever you want to refer to yourself, we can do a lot and feel as if we don't deserve a lot, right? We can put out and put out and put out and put out and never take the time to sit down and believe that we actually deserve to receive rest or a healthy meal or whatever. We don't think that we're allowed to be on the receiving end of those things. And so we end up getting burnt out, like just done. And that can lead to depression. You're exhausted, you're not happy, you're too tired to play with the kids, you're too tired to spend time with your husband, because you're going and going and going, and you're not taking care of yourself. And so it's so important, ladies, that if you are a stay-at-home mom, you're a homemaker, and you're home full time with your kiddos, that you take time for you. It's important. It's easier said than done. Trust me, I understand. I have 2 little kids, and I don't even have, like some people have 5, 6, 7, 8 kids. I only have 2. And it's definitely challenging. And that's one of the things I want to talk about in this video, is what are some ways that you can kind of get self-care in when you have kids and you're busy and you're constantly trying to get everything done. So first thing is self-care is important. You gotta make that a priority in your life. If you want to see a change in your happiness, you want to see a change in how your home is ran, you want to see a change in your relationships with your kids and your husband, and then just your mood and how you're feeling about your life and how you're feeling about being home. If you don't make a change and start taking care of you, nothing else is going to get better. It's just going to get worse or stay the way that it is. You're overwhelmed probably because you're not taking time to rest. You're exhausted probably because you're not taking time to get proper sleep. And as moms, naturally, we're already going to get less sleep. Naturally, we're already going to be tired. But that just means even more that we need to make an effort to get those things, because we already know as moms, naturally, we're not going to get there's just no way we're going to get 8 to 9 hours every single night. But knowing that we've got kids to wake us up throughout the night, we need to prioritize maybe going to bed earlier, maybe seeing if you can lay down with the kids at nap time, maybe seeing if, we'll get into some different things you can try. But if we want to see change in our joy and how we feel and how we look at our situations as stay-at-home moms, if we want to see a difference in our moods and just, maybe you don't like being home, maybe you hate it. Well, I'm willing to bet one of the bigger reasons that you're hating being home is because you're not taking care of yourself. So let's dive in. I want to make two statements before I dive into the different things you can do to basically make time for yourself. And the first one you might not like, but I had to kind of recognize this with myself. So the first one is, we have to stop blaming our lack of self-care time on everything and everyone else and take some responsibility. We have to take some responsibility. We have to take responsibility. It's really easy to point the finger and say, oh, I'm not getting enough time to shower because, my kids are really, really needy and this, that, and the other. I don't have time to eat healthy meals because, my husband works all the time and I don't have time to, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's really easy to point the finger at the house and the kids and the husband. And I'm not saying that all of that doesn't play a role, but at some point you have to take responsibility for the fact that you're not showering, that you're not eating healthy meals because you're choosing not to, that you're not exercising, that you're not, whatever it is that's making you feel the way that you're feeling. You have to take some responsibility at some point, because even if you think the fault is your husband's or the fault is your kids, you're the only one who could make the change for you. They can't make changes for them. First of all, they're kids. Second of all, your husband's got other things going on, and that's a whole other thing. You can communicate your needs to him, but at the end of the day, you have to be the one to take responsibility. Because one thing I had to realize was that when I would go a couple of days without showering, just because sometimes I would literally just be so focused on the kids. And this happened mostly when I first had my first kid. I got 2 now. And I would go like a couple of days without taking a shower and then realize, wait, I didn't take a shower yesterday. And this is, who wants to admit this, but like, I know I'm not the only one. And I would be like, wait, I didn't take a shower. And then you get mad. Why I didn't get to take a shower? Because my husband didn't give me time and this and that. And then you get all frustrated. But when you really sit back and think about it, it's like, wait a minute. Nobody told me not to take a shower. Like, nobody came and said, you're not allowed to take a shower. No one's saying, you're not allowed to eat healthy meals. You're not allowed to get rest. No one's making me not shower, if that makes sense. No one's making me eat a donut for breakfast. No one's making me, whatever it is. No one's forcing me to not get self-care. It may be challenging to find times to get self-care, but no one's making me. My husband never comes to me and say, you can't take a shower today. I'm too busy. My kids don't come to me and say, Mommy, you can't take a shower. So this is going to bring me to number 2, but you have to take some responsibility at some point. We can't keep pointing the fingers at everybody else in the house, because at the end of the day, especially if you look at yourself as a homemaker, you're the one who runs kind of the internal workings of the house, period, anyway. So you need to take responsibility and figure out a way to make it work. Number 2, you have to force self-care time into your schedule. You have to force it. And that's the key word there. A lot of times we think that life is just going to be handed to us. Like, self-care time is just going to magically float out of the sky and land on our laps in a silver platter, and we're just going to, oh, I have time to shower, oh, I have time to do. No, it's not how it works. You have to force. Life can be so busy when you're a mom, and you can be so focused on doing for everybody else that there's not going to be a moment that there's not something to do. So if you don't make the effort to force your schedule to make time for you, you're never going to get the time. If you don't make time to force self-care time, you're never going to get self-care time. So the first thing is to remember, take responsibility. I'm not saying it's completely your fault. I'm not saying that other factors don't play in. But at the end of the day, you're an adult. No one's making you not shower. And number two, you're going to have to figure out how to force your schedule to make room for you. So I wanted to say those two things before we dive into some of the other stuff, because if we can't do those first two things and remember those first two things, the rest of it's not going to matter, because we can go through all kinds of different ways and things you can do to make room, to schedule self-care time. But if you are blaming everybody else because you're not getting time for yourself, and then not actually taking the time to force the schedule and make it happen, you can make lists all day long about what you want to do, but no changes are going to actually be made. This section on my blog is titled 8 Ways to Make Time for Self-Care. So some of these are kind of standard, but I'm just going to go ahead and go through them really quick. So obviously, number one is you can get up early. We don't always like to hear that. I don't always get up early. Full transparency, I just don't. I try to, and when I get to, it's great most of the times, but I don't get a chance to, and that's fine. But that's definitely a way that you could get some me time in. Getting up early, even if it's only 30 minutes early. It doesn't have to be this get up at 4 o'clock in the morning before your family wakes up. If you can get up 30 minutes before the kids, even that can make a difference. You can read the Bible, you can exercise, you can sit there and stare at the wall. But that's 30 minutes for you to do whatever you need to do, even if it's just to kind of take some deep breaths and get your mind set to start the day. But getting up early is one way. Number two, staying up late. Now, I'm not saying stay up late like me. It's 12 o'clock midnight. But I'm not saying stay up late to the point where you're hurting your rest. But if you put your kids down at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, maybe even 10 o'clock, whatever, and then say you put your kids down at 9, and you go straight from putting them down to cleaning up the house. Well, what if you kind of forced your schedule to say, I'm only going to spend X amount of time getting these things done. I'm going to work really quick to get the kitchen done, dump the trash, and do all my nighttime routine tasks, so that I can allow room for 30 minutes of me time before I lay down. Can you move some stuff around your schedule? Can you say, that's what I'm going to do? Hey, can you even say, and I have this one next, with regard to doing late night cleans, sometimes it can take a while, and then your kids might wake up and interrupt you, and then you don't have time to do you, and you don't have time for self-care. Well, could you potentially, depending on your husband's schedule, say, hey, the kids are asleep, they shouldn't interrupt you, but if they happen to wake up, would you be willing to go take care of that so I can finish the kitchen, so I can finish whatever? You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's any harm in that. But it's about thinking of ways that you can get in that self-care time for yourself and forcing the schedule to do it. So if you aren't able to get up early and staying up late is hard, you've got to get creative sometimes. But it could literally be asking your husband to be on guard. If those kids wake up for the next 30 minutes, or for the next hour, could you be the one who's holding down the fort so I can finish this up and have some time to read a book? That's partnership. There's nothing wrong with that. Number three, when your kids nap, you can nap, but when your kids go to sleep, that's an opportunity for self-care. I know when my kids go to sleep, a lot of times, I'm torn between whether I should clean something, knock some stuff off the to-do list, extra stuff. There's a long list of things you could do, but that's definitely a window of opportunity, especially if you have good nappers, to get some self-care time in. Whatever that looks like for you, use that opportunity. Number four, ask your husband for a regularly scheduled me time. I actually ended up doing this myself because I just was not getting regular time. It was always just kind of sporadic, and I get it sometimes here and sometimes I wouldn't, and it was sometimes and so I had to just sit down and have a conversation, say, hey, can we make it so that I regularly get X amount of time, on these days to my, and so that gave me something to look forward to. But I always know I'm going to get that time to myself. I'm forcing the schedule to make time for me. And it's not me trying to bulldoze over my husband's schedule. It's not me trying to say I'm more important than my kids, but I'm forcing the schedule to make room for me too. I'm saying to my schedule, I know I have all these other things going on, but I matter too. So I'm going to find some space to force myself into the equation. So if you need to talk to your husband about getting some regular scheduled me time, that's an excellent way to do it. One other thing you can do is, number 5, is have a set day a week that you get to get out the house. I don't necessarily do this all the time, but that's another way you can do it. If you're somebody who has to get out the house to feel renewed and refreshed, have a day set every single week that you can get out the house. Every Friday, when your husband gets home from work, he gets set, let him settle in for a little bit, and then once he gets settled in and he's rested, after dinner or whatever, Saturday, Sunday, whatever day you want to choose, get out the house for a couple hours and have that be a regularly scheduled thing. That's not something that I do right now, but I have been considering it. I'm a bit of a homebody, so I don't necessarily need that on a weekly basis, but maybe you do. Maybe you don't need it weekly, maybe bi-weekly, maybe monthly. But again, forcing the schedule to make room for what you need. Making room for what you need to renew yourself and feel refreshed and get yourself back to a state where you can tackle all of the homemaking duties and responsibilities and be the good mom that you want to be, because you're not depleted. Number 6, I would say, is get a babysitter. A regularly scheduled day that you can drop the kids off or have somebody come over. Like I said, it doesn't have to be weekly. Maybe you want to do it every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. Can you do that? Is there a friend or family member that's available every so often on a regular basis that will be willing to watch the kids for a couple hours for you? A grandparent that would love to spend time with the kids. Even if it's not like the same day every week, think about whenever you start to feel like you need that break, who can you lean on? I think if you have somebody that you trust to take care of your kids, and you know that they're going to look after them and they love them, and they've offered, especially if they've offered, take advantage. This kind of goes along with the last one. Take advantage of grandparents. Grandparents, if you're blessed enough to still have your parents living, they love being around grandkids. They love it. Take advantage. If you are in a position where they just constantly want to, take advantage. Get a schedule going. You know what I mean? Take advantage. And I'm not saying drop your kids off all the time, but if you just really need a break, why not? The last thing is, see if your husband would take the kids for a day to visit family while you stay home. So sometimes I'll take the kids to my mom's house and we'll stay there for several hours, and my husband will get to just be home and do what he does, whether he's working, sleeping, whatever. Sometimes I ask him to do the same thing. You can ask the same thing. Hey, do you mind taking the kids on Saturday out of the house so I can just have the house to myself for a few hours? You can ask that. So those are the 8 things, and those were just a really small number of ideas on ways that you can kind of get some self-care time in. But ultimately, it's just about sitting back and being creative and finding a way to make your schedule make you matter. I think sometimes as stay-at-home moms, we don't think we're allowed to communicate to our husbands that we need a break. I need an hour. It's like we think, well, they're working, I don't want to bother them. But you will burn out, honey. I'm telling you, you will burn out your partners. And one thing that we have to remember with our spouses is that we are on the same team. We're on the same team. And if you are on the verge of burnout, you're exhausted and overwhelmed, and you think getting an hour a day to yourself is going to make a difference, do you really think your husband's going to be angry about that? We've got to get out of this thought process of we can't bother our husbands. They can't lift it. No, they can't be touched. They work. We don't want to bother them with anything. I mean, they live here and they love you, and these are their kids too. And I'm pretty sure that if you communicate that to him, he will understand, and he will be willing to give you that day off a week, you know what I mean? Or give you that couple of hours a day or 30 minutes a day, whatever it is that you need. It's a partnership, and you guys are on the same team. with the same end goal. You both want the best for the family, and that includes everybody in the family getting fulfilled and being happy and being joyful. And if everybody in the house else in the house is rested and happy and joyful and fulfilled, except for mama, that's a recipe for an unhappy home, really. And that's not good for you. That was the video. Thank you if you watched to this point. Thank you so much for watching to the end. And like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one. God bless.